It all started one cold night when I got the worst call of my life. You know, my mom called me on the phone. Her voice was shaky, and I could tell something was wrong. You know, your uncle Peter has passed away, she said. We need to go to the funeral. Uncle Peter was my mother's brother. He was always a little strange, quiet, and kept to himself. He lived alone in an old house far from the city. Um, I didn't see him much, but I knew he was a bit different from other people. Like, no, some of my relatives used to say that he was interested in the weird things like ghosts and spirits, but I never really believed in that. The funeral was sad, but it felt strange. You know, the whole place had an every feeling like something wasn't right. I tried to ignore it, but deep down inside, I felt uneasy. Yeah, that night after the funeral, I stayed at my mom's house. You know, I didn't want to be alone. I couldn't explain why, but I just felt scared. It wasn't like the kind of fear you can explain. It was like something was watching me. I went to bed that night, but I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing strange sounds. First, it was a soft tapping on my window. I thought it was just the wind, so I ignored it. But then the tapping came again, louder this time. Um, I got up, opened the window, but there was nothing, just the dark, empty street outside. I closed the window and turned back to my bed, but then I saw it. Yeah, a shadow. Um, it was moving in the corner of my room. It wasn't like a normal shadow. It flickered like it wasn't sure the what shape to take. You know, I froze. I couldn't move. The shadow grew bigger, and then I heard a whisper. It was a voice I recognized. Why did you leave me? The voice said, soft and sad. It was Uncle Peter's voice. Hmm. My heart raced. I felt cold all over me. I couldn't breathe. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. The shadow seemed to grow closer, and I could feel its presence in the room. It was like Uncle Peter was right there with me. You know. Suddenly, the door of my room creaked open. I didn't know how, but I could feel the cold air from the hallway creeping in. I ran out of the room as fast as I could, um, and and I didn't look back. I ran outside into the night, my heart pounding in my chest. But when I looked around, there was nothing to there was nothing. No shadow, no ghost. I thought maybe I was just dreaming, or maybe I was just scared because of the funeral. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. Yeah, I knew something wasn't right. The next few nights were the same. Every time I tried to sleep, I could hear whispers. I could feel something cold brushing against my skin, like like someone was standing right behind me. Every time I turn around, there was nothing, but I knew it was Uncle Peter. His ghost was haunting me. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to do something. I decided to go to Uncle Peter's old house. I didn't know why, but something told me I have to do so. But when I got there, the house was dark and quiet. Um, the were broken. The windows were broken, and the door creaked open as I pushed against it. Inside, everything was dusty, as if no one had lived there for years. But as I walked through the house, I felt like I wasn't alone. You know, the air was thick, heavy with something I couldn't explain. I went to Uncle Peter's old room, where he spent most of his time. There were books everywhere, old and worn. But what caught my eye was a small journal on the desk. I I opened it and began to read. The journal was filled with strange writings, you know, um, things about spirits and dead, and how to communicate with them. It was clear that Uncle Peter had been trying to reach out to something beyond this world, but he had never finished his work. His spirit was trapped between this world and the next, you know, and that's why he was hunting me. I knew what I had to do. That night um, I went back to my mom's house and prepared the ritual that was written in the journal. I lit candles and said the words Uncle Peter had written. I didn't know if it would work, but I had to try. But I have to try, I have to try. As I spoke the final words, the temperature in the room dropped. It felt the shadow. I felt the shadow grow darker. I could hear Uncle Peter's voice, again. I mean, by this time it wasn't angry. It was calm, peaceful. Thank you, he whispered. I can finally rest. The shadow in the room disappeared. The coldness lifted, and for the first time in days, I felt peace. I knew that Uncle Peter's spirit was no longer trapped. He had moved on. The next morning, everything felt normal again. The whispers stopped. The shadows were gone. I didn't feel afraid anymore. I went back to Uncle Peter's house one last time, and I didn't feel scary. Um, it felt empty, like the house was finally at rest. I said goodbye to him, even though I knew he was no longer there. Goodbye, Uncle Peter, I whispered. I hope you are at peace now. And just like that, I never heard from him again. The ghost of my uncle was finally gone, and I could move on with my life now. You know, this is the story of the ghost of my uncle haunting me, part one.